Good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are things down in Calgary?
It's great coming from the Invermere, Windermere, Iridium Hot Springs area of BC. I'm on location, as we say. Super excited tonight. We have some fresh blood, but not really. She's new to the show, but she's a longtime member of the community, very active. Ria has joined us, and as well, very well experienced and just a very knowledgeable individual. One of our sponsors, our eviction experts, Don Gray with Edmonton Eviction Services. So, Chris, we've got a great show lined up tonight.
Yeah, we do. It's nice when we reach out and get a few people from the group and talk about experience. Now, Ria and I just met today, and then behind the scenes, backstage, I just found out even more about her. So she's a real value here. What we're going to bring on tonight and her experience. So I'm looking forward and she's really excited. She goes, "I'm so glad you guys asked me." So I'm excited to have her. Have her here. So
yeah, no, she's got a large number of doors that she manages, and a wealth of experience. I know that because she's always asking very specific questions about specific situations. So we know that we got someone that's not only kind of talking the talk, but really walking the walk. And as we all try figuring out this business of being landlords, we work together to help each other out. So she's certainly no exception to that. So,
and she made a comment there to us just before we went live here, was that she's pulled a lot of value out of the page. So you know what, Mac, our little long-term goal here is just starting to come to a head here, where people are starting to pull information out of other landlords, pull information out of what we put up here on the group. And you know what, I don't know, it's kind of a feel-good moment. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. We're coming up on 4,000 members in the community, and Chris, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure you feel the same way. Every time we have one of these shows, I'll go, did you hear that tip? I didn't know they did that way. I'm going to write that down and do the same way next time, because there's so many nuances to the business that every conversation, there's always something to take away. We're always learning something new. And so I'm very appreciative and I feel very grateful that we can have these conversations.
Well, that's good. Our viewership is starting to get up over double digits here now. So why don't you folks run out real quick? We're going to do our intro and grab a drink, a coffee, tea, or a spirit of your choice. Sit back, relax, and we'll bring our guests in and we'll have a great time. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Let's do it. There's a little bit of noise there. So we're back on. I apologize. I did miss last week. I was sick for probably 8 days. I had no voice for about half of it. My 2-year-old came back from daycare with some super cold virus thing, and it worked quite well. It was aggressive. I was out for a bit, but happy to be back. We do have Ria. Ria's actually sitting in her car. She's taking some time in her evening tonight, and she's got a 4-minute sign in the back seat. Ria, welcome to the show. Welcome to Alberta Landlord Shoptalk.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am very honored to do this. And when I saw the invitation, it's like, I have to do this. That's so excited. Right.
Super cool. So maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. You kind of already mentioned in the back scene. I know you manage a large number of units, but why are you in the Alberta landlord community and kind of and what you do?
Yeah, so I have been doing this for going 6 years now, and I have about 100 properties all over Calgary, Okotoks and Red Deer and Airdrie. And I just found out about this for a page that was shared on another page. And I said, and I scroll everything. I was like, this is what I really need. Because I said, like, I've been calling the basic RTA and it put me like half an hour of wait time. And I said, I need an answer right now. So I just go on Google and Facebook. I said, there's got to be an answer to my question. And then I found you guys and I just follow, and everything is like on the spot. Like the answers to all my questions are right there.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And yeah, just as we're talking to you're like the ideal candidate, Ria, where we wanted to bring together landlords to help answer each other's questions, and it's a tricky business, right? And
It is.
especially managing 100 doors. Like I'm only 6, so I do not have the breadth that you have, but you basically get, call it 100 divided by 6 every year's worth of experience that I get. So you're growing like exponentially and learning the business, and it can be super difficult because you've got people and relationships and managing that aspect, plus the capital and investment into properties and managing that asset as well. And it's two diverse areas, but it's a bit of a teeter-totter that you got to kind of manage to make sure everyone's happy. And yeah, lots of questions come out of the business at any rate.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Ria, we're going to just bring Dawn in as well, but we're going to give you the spotlight for the first part of the show, and we're going to let Dawn have the second, because we know you're out with friends tonight, and you stepped aside just to do this. So we really appreciate that. So you're probably right outside the restaurant doing this, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah, I am.
Well, let's bring our good old friend, Uncle Don Gray, right here. And there he is.
Hey, Don.
Hey.
Hi, awesome.
Hi.
Good. This is awesome. So I have some places I want to take this conversation, but I know Don has some great conversations around abandonment and eviction basics. Ria, I'm just going to hazard a guess here. You've gone to RTDRS a couple times, perhaps the Queen Court's the bench. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, how about this? I'm going to throw it to Ria. Ria, since you're in the show, what was probably some of the first questions when you got in this business that were like just an unknown or super difficult, or if someone could answer you one question right off the bat that would have made your business of being a landlord or property manager a lot easier, what would that conversation be like?
Yeah, so the RTDRS is quite challenging to me, every single application, because every single application is always unique. And my challenges so far is, well, before COVID, to start with, is like the serving in person. I really want to serve in person. I am not the kind of like, oh yeah, 3 knocks on the door and drive away. No, I am persistent. I knock on the door. I will not stop. I'll go to the back door. I'll knock again. I even knock on the neighbors and say, hey, is this family still here? But when COVID hits, it's like, I want personal touch. I want a conversation. I want to engage in a good way, because I want like, hey, you made me do this. I'm just obligated to do this because this is my job. And sometimes in return, it wasn't really good. Like I was pushed around. I called 911, but it is what it is. Yeah.
Okay. So just getting that basic contact, like what are some strategies in around that? That's a honestly, I didn't really think about how simple getting a hold of someone or talk to them face to face could be. So Dawn, I'm going to throw this back over at you. As Ria said, like just breaking that ice, especially in a post-COVID world, because now there's such different social aspects around perhaps what is allowed and not allowed and what's considered perhaps invasive. But what do you do when you're serving notices or direct or delivering that paperwork?
Well, certainly I'm no different than Ria. We want to try and serve that the first time. With RTDRS, you need to try several times, different days and different times if they're not there. And certainly, if they know you're coming, they can make it more difficult for you. I've had, I knock on the door and I can hear the TV playing, and then all of a sudden the TV goes off and the lights go off. Wow, there's a ghost in there. So around the back door, I'll do that sort of thing. I've also got in my vehicle and drove down the street a little ways and turned around, just, maybe 2 or 3 houses on the other side of the street. And then sure as heck, they come running out and jump in their car, and I drive up behind their car and knocking the window.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Boo. Yeah. This is for you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes, certainly I've had where they come to the door and they won't take it. They won't open the door. So you post it to the door and you write your note on the declaration that this is what you did. They wouldn't take it. So you posted it to the door. Yeah.
Cool. Ria, tell us what kind of things you prepare for when you're going. How do you put what's your beginning of putting a package together for the RTDRS?
Okay, I'll start with the basic non-payment of rent. I skip the eviction. I go straight to filing, and I do it within 48 hours after the deadline, which is every first of the month. Regardless your status to me, I'll go straight to court. I gather all evidences, such as my rent ledger. I'll pull out history at least maybe 6 months and say, okay, in 6 months or maybe a year, how many instances that they were late.
Mm-hmm.
I count them one by one, as far as I can go. And then I put that on the narrative and the active lease agreement, how much they owe, how much they pay. And during the time that they owe us money, there are options on the RTDRS application. Are there any still owing? So I add up about, they say the example that I have is they break the back door glass. It's a sealed pane. So I added that because it happened during the tenancy. I always support myself with evidences, move-in inspection, move-out inspection if they moved out, or I do have my interim inspection. Because lesson learned, as far as evidence would go, I always win.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
And what about conversations through text and emails? How important are those?
Yes, I do have that. And actually, I have all the documents online. I actually get online because there is an option to save for later. Remember that, guys? When filing, there is save for later. So what I do, I make a phone call. If they pick up, great, because I want them to pick up the phone. And I said, hey, this is the 5th time that I've tried connecting with you. And this is what's going to happen. I have been trying to reach out to you within 48 hours. It's been 3 days. It's been 4 days. And I have no reply from you guys. All I need from you guys is to communicate. I am easy. If you want to make a payment arrangement, these are for people who have like a good standing. But, there are certain months that sometimes they just miss 1 day or 2 days. So I still want to engage and say, hey, can we make this work? Because I hate going to RTDRS. But with you not replying to me, you're forcing me to do it. Here's your paper. Right. You're being served.
Now, you just had a recent one. We were talking earlier today.
Yes.
Was that one a little different? There was a little bit of a history to that. They actually brought your company into court.
So these tenants have been with us for 3 years with the tenancy since 2018. So she is a repeated late payment. We just let it go because she paid, but then there's like 3-4 days, and then she wasn't really good to me. She was being racist to me. She called me names up to a point I say, hey, this is the first and the last that you will disrespect me. I treat you with respect, and I am expecting the same way in return. So up to the point that my boss said, Rhea, enough is enough. You just direct everything to me and stuff like that. Until such time that I don't get any answers from her, neither my boss. So I filed directly. So we had a court order for a non-payment of rent for 1 month, and she was given till June, end of the month, and she didn't pay. And then fast forward to, I think, January, we were served with a court case that says she needs her deposit back. So boom, I pull out the
Oh,
judgment.
and
I
this
pull
is
out
from the middle of last year. So when did she move out?
2023. She moved out July 3 of 2021, and I got the judgment June 23 of 2021.
Oh,
And
okay.
I lost rental income for the whole July because I was able to rent it out by August 1st. We were served sometime in January of 2022 for March 22 hearings, what's just Tuesday. So I gather all evidences, pictures, and then when the hearing started, the judge said whether I approve your damages, the landlord's damages claim, the order alone is valid enough because they didn't pay that judgment.
Okay, I'm going to
So
just
right
stop
on
you.
the, yeah.
I'm just going to
Okay.
stop you, and the only reason
Okay.
is I have just people playing catch up with us who are joining. So what
Okay.
Ria's been talking about is she has because I just saw the numbers go up. Ria's a property manager, and she's brought it going into court. So she has a judgment already from 2021 against a client, and now and that wasn't paid, and then the
No.
client now says, "Hey, I want my damage deposit back." So the client has gone and served, or the tenant has gone and served Ria and the company to get her damage deposit back. And Ria is now explaining to you guys what's happened next. Now they're in court. They had the hearing. It was just yesterday or the day before, right?
Yeah, Tuesday.
And now
Yeah.
she's telling you what the judge or the hearing officer had to say to the tenant who brought the company to court to get their damage deposit back. So you take over from there.
Yes. So the exact hold on guys a second.
She's bringing
Yeah,
up the order. I
no
asked her to
problem.
make sure she had
I
access to
like
the
this.
order.
This is the real deal.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the landlord shall retain the tenant's security deposit of 1,295 and apply it against judgment amount granted for unpaid rent back in 2021 judgment. If
Mhm.
the landlord believes that they have entitled to damages, then the landlord may file to RTDRS at no cost. So I can file for judgment for damages this time because we are approved that the landlord's valid and retained and the security deposit for money owing for unpaid rent. That's what the order said.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And the nice thing too is they waived your filing fee because well, I don't know why they would do that, but I guess they understand that there's costs owing, perhaps from obviously we don't know the dialogue and what the actual hearing was like, but they've gone forward and said if you want to go and file, Ria, we're not going to charge you another filing fee.
No. Yeah,
Well,
they waive it.
that's a normal process for most of it, correct,
It
Don?
is.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it's called a comeback clause.
Comeback
Oh.
clause, right?
Okay.
So your first attempt at the RTDS with this person, was that just to get them out? You didn't go after any damages at the time?
No, at that time it's just basic non-payment of rent. That's
Right.
all it was.
So you got a
Yeah.
judgment against them for non-payment
Yeah.
of rent,
Yeah.
and they chose to leave, or was there an eviction order?
They chose to leave, but when they left, it's like the per day diem.
Per diem,
What you
yeah.
call it, like per diem. So that's what it is. And then what's funny was I reach out to her several times and say, hey, I'm just doing my job. I need to release you from this, so I need to do a formal final inspection. And her reply is consistently no.
Right.
So, and she directly messaged our third party contractor general maintenance guy who is not qualified to do it. And little do we know, like as a courtesy, that maintenance guy say, hey, I was contacted by this person to do a walkthrough, and we didn't approve that. We didn't approve it because he is not qualified. He is general maintenance.
Right.
Yeah,
So they
you don't
still
want to
proceed.
mix that.
Yeah, they still proceed. But after I know that I am safe to go in, because she's combative, like verbally. So after 24 hours and I know I'm safe, I did my own. and I just document everything. I list it down, dated, marked with pictures. That's what I did. And I submit all those evidences to this hearing.
Wow. I'll just put this comment up here. This is from Teresa. She is down in California. You remember her, Mac, from she found us on YouTube.
Yeah.
And Teresa says here, she never heard that before, that the court waived the fee. What happened there was, Teresa, was the tenant brought the company back into court to deal, because they wanted to get their damage deposit back, which they didn't, and they lost. However, the judge or the hearing officer, which we do in Alberta, allows for a comeback clause, like Dawn had said. So on her original order that Ria got, you can come back for damages. So are you going to be doing that, Ria?
Yes. Besides, I have all the receipts and pictures in line. All I got to do is upload it. That's all it is. Yeah, pretty easy.
Just for curious, how much is it that you think you'll go after?
Good question. I have it here.
Wow, she's super prepared.
I am, because this is actually all the things that I need to. I just basically need to scan and upload. That's all. Yeah. So their damage deposit is $1,295. I have the court order for $1,490 plus $75 court fee. The painting of $761, carpet cleaning of $200, and a 6-hour cleaning at $30 an hour. So that's $180. Grand total, $2,706.25 less the $12.
So $1,500 and change.
Yes, yeah, $1,411 to be exact. That's what I'm seeking. Yeah.
So Dawn, I want to throw it back to you. This comeback clause, so when is it applicable, and what is it exactly?
Okay, comeback clause is when you're doing a move out, an eviction for whatever, partying or non-payment or whatever. This thing pops up here. So you believe that at the end, or you have reason to believe that at the end of the lease, when they move, that there may be damages. So that you ask the judge if you can have a comeback clause, meaning that you can come back and file for anything that hasn't been handled at this particular hearing, or if there's another that hasn't been handled already. So we do that when we expect damages, and all that does is it waives the $75 filing fee, and that's in the RTDRS. It's not in the court. It's because the RTDRS was set up partly to make it easier and more affordable for the average Joe to go, whether it's a tenant or a landlord. And so they keeping these costs down and offering these kind of things. So that's the basis behind it.
Yeah. So that's a fantastic tip, and I'll just add this in, and I'll give it back to Chris. Oh, and Chris is gone here. It is, if you know when you're initially filing, let's say you're filing because you've got consistent late payments, you file, you go through the process, but perhaps the relationship's a little bit tenuous. You might say, I would like also a comeback clause. There may be more damages. I think there might be something. You just make that conversation and they'll award that, and that just saves you that additional $75 for a future filing.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I'd like to add one more on this case, maybe for next time if you come into something similar again, is that when she sued you, that left the door open for you to countersue her, and you could have countersued for all of the damages, lost rent, and whatever else you wanted to throw in there.
Yeah.
And you had to allow that at once. I do that consistently.
Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't have to have another hearing.
No.
This one.
And you know what I do too, if I know that there are existing damages that I am have been coordinating with these tenants. For example, I have a court case, and I do know before I even file this court case that there's like windows, doors that has been kicked, glasses that had been broken. I document each and every interim inspection that I have. At that time, it's still fresh. Let's say I only have like a 3 weeks, and then I file a court case for non-payment of rent. Those picture I include, and on my narrative at the bottom, I just say, potential damages, and these are and pictures are attached to show a few damages that has been discussed with the tenant. And I gave them 14 days to resolve it. If not, I'll step in and I'll give them the bill. So at least I have the invoice already. And then during the hearing, I mentioned, Your Honor, I have pictures of potential damages. Can I please have on the order a comeback clause? And boom, right there, you will get it right away.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. And you know what? Because you're initially just filing for non-payment of rent, but you already know I've done my inspection. I've taken the pictures, and I want to throw back at you. I know, Don, we ask this to you all the time, but Rhea, when you say you document, like, what does that really mean? When you take a picture, you take in, like, just if you see damaged carpet, for example, how would you actually put that into paperwork? Okay, what does that look like for you?
So I have a basic form of inspection, which are categorized in all areas to the house: living room, bedroom 1, bedroom 2, bedroom 3. And I have this app on my phone that when I snap a photo, it is labeled the date and the address to the property.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I put my fingers like this, or maybe I put my pen beside the hole in the wall. At least the judge will have an idea how big is the, what I'm trying to show on the picture. I usually have like a toonie or a loonie, or even just my pen, because everybody knows how thick and how, like, the length of a pen.
Yeah.
If I'm being proactive, I have a measuring tape.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's perfect. So you've got pictures with timestamps for the date and time when you're there. You take a picture of the damaged area, and it's not just a picture of the damaged area, but you've got something inside the picture that tells me if this damage is a couple inches, or if I'm looking at 3 feet worth of damage, or whatever it might be. So it's very clear at a quick glance. When I look at the damage, I know the size and really the severity of the damage.
And it doesn't stop there. I have a maintenance guy on call. I'll put them on the phone, on speaker, discuss it with the tenant. At least they know what they're looking at for pricing.
Oh, so you do a great job of setting expectations right in the spot
and
as well.
Sometimes it's very common to have a broken door. I know exactly how that is, like the cost.
Yeah.
You have to consider, are you using a used door? Are you using a brand new door from Rona or whatever store you will have them from? And then, when you buy a door, it's just basic door. You have to consider the painting, installation. So it just doesn't stop there. I just put a basic standard pricing. It will go up, yes, it will go down, but at least I know where my, the pricing.
You give them a ballpark, right? So they kind of, if they make this mistake, it's probably going to cost you X around X hundred of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that really initial
helps.
inspection, I just say, or even the move-in or signing the lease, I was like, it's basic, guys. Like, when you break it, you pay for it.
Yeah.
Rhea, what kind of, you said you have an app. Is this with your company, or is this something you can download off of?
It's free. It's free on the app. Well, I'm using an Apple phone, so I can share it to you guys later. It's pretty cool. But the funny thing is, when I am on one room and move to the bedroom 2, your neighbor's address is going to be reading because it's the GPS, right?
Oh.
So usually, just to avoid mistake, if I am in a very known community in Calgary, I just set it to the community name. Let's say Dover, Forest Lawn, MacKenzie Town, Braeside. But if my GPS is really accurate, it will read the exact address of your property.
That would be great if you could take a screenshot of the app and then upload it so people can see it. Because
I love tech. This is cool.
I don't know if you can see, but there's a whole bunch of people asking about this app right now. So for those of you who are asking, there's the question. She'll put it up sometime this week. So
there was actually one guy that I replied because I think I post a picture And he was very particular. Like, how did you do that? So I just screenshot my app, and it was a long, like probably a couple of months ago posting. And yeah, I would be happy to share it. Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Just to give you
sorry,
oh, you go ahead, Chris.
Dixie Green, if you could let us know where you're from, Dixie, whether you're Alberta based or not, because you were asking about what the fees are and what the RTDRS is. If you could just comment, and then we can help out with that question. Just going to grab a couple quick questions before we lose Rhea here. Anything else that's jumping out at you, Mac?
No, I was just gonna say we are. I know Rhea is like, well, we'll kind of keep her to 20 minutes. We're at 33 minutes, so a couple more minutes we could probably let you go, Rhea, if that's fine by you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So
okay.
Rhea, I'll get you to answer this question. Do you have to serve a tenant again when you send the new evidence in and new affidavit? So.
Yes, that's what I do. But if I am uploading new evidences, especially for non-payment of rent, let's say I put the rent is $1,500, and April 1 they didn't pay, so that's my base. But then on April 5 they paid $700, so I upload another evidence that this is the receipt, they pay this, and I submitted it to the tenant as well. No need for affidavit. All you got to do is to submit your evidence that you upload online to the tenant within 24 hours, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Good. Oh. And we found out here that Dixie is one of our Swift Currents. So she's one of our Saskatchewan landlord programs. So we also broadcast on their channel in Saskatchewan.
Nice.
So and Edson, Alberta. I know the place is on the way out to Hinton, Alberta. I used to work in the oil patch up in that area.
Right.
So yeah.
So
cool.
So Dixie, our program here is called the Residential Tenancy Dispute Resolution Service, which if you didn't catch the beginning of the shows, I'll just shorten it up. It's a program outside of the actual court process, and it's like Don was telling us, it's a program put in place by the government so the people can get in and access government and programs simpler than trying to go through the formalities of court and the delays in court. So it costs $75 to file. And pretty much on the most part, they follow similar rules of evidence, but it is a little bit lighter on putting third-party evidence in, I would say sometimes, Don? So,
yeah, it's they judge on the probability of who is right. You don't have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Right. On a preponderance of the evidence. So if you don't know what that means, it means it's a scale. Yeah, I think that person's more right, or I think this person's more right, and that's what it is. So
that's all they need, as opposed to being like beyond extra evidence beyond to make a reasonable doubt.
Beyond a reasonable doubt is a criminal term for criminal court, where it's like you have to there's absolutely no way this could not have done it. You know, that's
so if you're doing the scale just like this, you're talking like it's 90-10%. Like you got to be 90% correct that you're probably reasonably
no,
right.
No, 100. There is no
okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
If there's any reasonable doubt, you don't convict in criminal court. So just to get away from that, we'll go back to civil. It's a preponderance of the evidence, right, Don?
Totally. Yep. Cool. Awesome. Well, Rhea, let's let you go. We'd love to have you back on the show again.
Sure.
Super informative and also quite active in the community. So thank you for really taking part and asking great questions.
Sure. Thank you, guys. It's been an honor, and I've been actually waiting for an invitation.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well,
so how can I share my app? Where do I just upload it?
Create a new post. We'll tag it with the show tonight, and we'll let people know. And on the post for the show as well, if you find it, you can comment in as well and drop the app in there, because 6 people asked about it already, so it would be super helpful. Yeah.
I'll try that, because you guys still have half an hour, so I can jump in on a screenshot, and then if I can get in the link itself.
Yeah, and do it later. Go enjoy it tonight, and
sure.
Yeah,
we appreciate it. So thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit in the
guys.
car.
I really do. I really like it. So thank you again. Enjoy the rest of the shop talk, and then hoping to be in again for another very special topic. So thank you, guys. Don, Mac, and
you have a brew for me, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm actually waiting for a shot. Sorry about that.
Oh, perfect.
Better, yeah.
Thank you.
All
Bye.
right, thanks, Tria.
Good evening.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Oh, very cool. That
What a
that
yeah, real
that
sweetheart, eh? So
that
glad
makes
we
me
found her.
so happy when we hear conversations like that. I know Christine's been the page, Deidre. When we have people saying, "Hey, I've learned so much by reading this," or Chris, you and I, we get to have Dawn on the show, and Dawn's like, "You should do this one little simple step by doing this or walking around," or Dawn says park down the block and come back and have that conversation when you serve. Like, just there's so many nuances, and it's a and it's a challenging business. Like, don't get me wrong, like especially when people think they're right, and they usually they do, and then they're very stickler on that conversation, and it's a challenging business, but man, when you get it right, it's such a rewarding business as well, and that's part of why I enjoy it so much. And yeah, always good conversations.
Well, I
So
just want to throw out there part of the thing is you get these loud, obnoxious, entitled tenants who think I'm going to call my lawyer. I'm sorry, you have a lawyer on retainer, but you can't pay your rent. Okay, let me process that for a second. Not okay, so
yeah,
they're just being a bully. So this is why we preach here. I have my book. Mac's got his, I got mine. I've got the RTA in here. I've got the Residential Tenancy Act regulations. I also have minimum housing standards, among other things. These are things you need to be able to refer to. And I actually posted a link earlier today. If you're a landlord and you have a secondary suite, or you maybe having one that you want to legalize and it's been grandfathered in or something, you may want to read that minimum standards, because you can get spanked pretty quickly when they call the health unit in. And that minimum standard is going to help me in my hearing on Monday. It got adjourned because we ran out of time, but these are some great things to know. I just want to go over to this question here. I think Don can probably help us out with this one. It says, I have an RTDS eviction for the end of May. What happens if I don't enforce it and in the future I have to take them to the RTDRS again? Will that be a problem?
ooh, that's an interesting question.
So first question is, Mark, before I get Don to tangle
Don.
with you here,
Oh yeah.
for Don tangles with Mark, can you tell us in another comment, why wouldn't you evict? Where's your mind?
Or enforce whatever you get from the results of your first RDS hearing.
Yeah, well, I assume because you said it's an RTDRS eviction, you're looking to evict somebody. Could you just clarify why you wouldn't want that to be enforced? And then,
Yeah,
Don,
good.
go ahead and answer what you think is going on there.
No, it won't. It won't affect that. I've had that before, where a tenant or a landlord had got an eviction, or even not even an eviction, but a conditional order to make certain payments, or keep the peace or whatever, and didn't enforce it when they had the opportunity. So that runs out. It runs out. The dates are on the order. So when it runs out, then it's not even considered. You can use it as evidence for the next one, and you may be asked, why didn't you enforce it? And of course the answer usually is something along the line of, well, I felt sorry for him, or something, and along that line. So then that's as far as it goes, but it does carry weight for the next round here. So
All right.
Interesting.
So Mark's second part of his question here says, tenant works seasonally and they will have more money during the upcoming months. They like the unit and want to stay. Well, you know what? I'm just going to throw an idea that popped into my head. And I thought of that while Don was talking, is why wouldn't you enforce it? And well, sometimes people pull their socks up because they have money to pay. What I might suggest to you, Mark, is if that person wants to stay and they're willing to work with you, that they start paying a month in advance, which means they're always an extra month paid ahead. And so if they're paying, for example, on April 1st, that's for May already. So they're planning ahead, or they pay a payment and a half and a payment and a half. So you're always an extra month ahead. You can work that out with them. So if 1 month they're slow and they can't pay, well, then you've got that month in the bank. there's nothing wrong. You can't demand it, but there's nothing wrong with negotiating that. And if you both agree to something, then you've got money in the bank, so to speak, if it starts to go sideways again. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Don?
Yeah, that's a reasonably good idea, or a very good idea. What I would probably do, knowing this, that there's going to be a time when they have more money, so it's like having more cash flow somewhere down the road, is I would structured the conditional order so that the extra payments would maybe be smaller when the money cash flow is low for them, but when the cash flow is higher, then they would make bigger payments in order to catch up what they're behind, and have that over a longer period of time. And probably about 80% of the adjudicators would go along with a kind of a complex
A payment plan like that, Don?
pardon me?
Like a payment plan, like what you proposed there?
Yeah, so that's what a conditional order is. There's a payment plan, or it can be conditional, can be anything, no partying anymore, no more swearing or whatever. Keep the peace. But most of the time it's a payment plan, and usually it's, you have to pay the rent on time and in full, and then you make payments on your arrears. So you can structure those payments, and I've done that before, where maybe it was $300 a month for 4 months, and then it's up to $500 for the next few months, because they had started a new job and they needed to catch up on their insurance and stuff. For them.
Yeah, and I'd probably throw in the caveat to what Chris you've suggested, and Don, is this is probably for a tenant that you have a good relationship with, but you trust them. There is that level of trust already in place, and more or less they've fallen on hard times, or there's seasonal working where there's lulls in the cash flow that they have to make up for. So how can we make this work for both parties?
Yeah, and it's structured. That's the big thing. It's structured. A lot of people, if they don't have structure, then they flounder. So if you provide the structure and you've got it in a court order, then court order says if you don't comply, then you get served with a notice of default and you're out in 4 days. Well, that's a heavy penalty.
So Mark, I think just to sum it up, and we'll move on to the next question here, is you have an opportunity in front of you. Is you're going to go to court, you're going to come up with a payment suggestion or option, and that person could agree to it, and your hearing could be done in like 3 or 4 minutes. Well, it might be an exaggeration, maybe 10, but you're going to come up with a payment plan where they can catch up on their old rent, still pay their new rent. Once they're caught up, though, then my suggestion might kick in, because I wasn't considering the court dynamic of it, is where now that they're caught up, maybe between you and him, you say, okay, let's say you start paying, if your rent's $1,000, you pay $1,200 a month until you start to go to the bad months again. And then after a few months, you have $1,000 in the bank, so to speak. So when he does have a bad month, he can miss a month. So that's plan B to the court order. So it'll all tie in nicely if you plan it out accordingly.
Yeah, that's cool. Things I've never even considered. So
yeah, everything can be worked out. Like, it's just but the key in it is, like Don said, it's structure. Once they're told you have to do this, if you fail, then this will happen. If this, then that.
Yeah, and there's a not cause and effect, but like there's a consequence if you don't follow through, which is hugely motivating, which is what Donna was talking about, right? Because if you just say, yeah, we should do this, it doesn't mean anything, and the problem happens again. It reoccurs.
Hey, Mac, you should write out when you do computer programming, there's the little question box, and it's yes, no, and although you should do up a flow chart for our clients to follow.
It sounds like a great idea, Chris. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna bite my tongue. We'll go somewhere else. Let's give Don some proper airtime here. Don, you had some great conversations tonight about abandonment. So or where do you want to go? You talked about abandonment, and then there's even eviction basics. I know you get a ton of questions of being like, hey, I want this person now. They're difficult. They're not paying rent, whatever it might be. What do you usually give structure to when someone's speaking to you for the first time? You probably have a minimum set of information or questions or steps to go through. Where do you like to start the conversation?
Well, one of the the themes that I get quite consistently over the years has been I feel that these tenants of mine have abandoned the place. Well, how do you know? And they list a number of things. And abandonment is very what's the word? Touchy, I guess. Not
subjective.
Yeah,
maybe?
well, it's subjective to some degree, but it's also they may be on a holiday and they're just terrible housekeepers and they haven't done anything, and nobody's seen them and nobody shoveled the snow or whatever, but they're coming back in 2 weeks, and you can't. You gotta be sure that they've abandoned the place. So there's a very good periodical or whatever it's called. It says laws for landlords and tenants in Alberta, and it's saying abandoned goods. There we go. This way.
Oh.
And
yeah.
I like to have these things that sometimes I need to remind myself as well. It says, so this is regarding abandoned goods. What are abandoned goods? Well, if your tenant has left goods behind and has abandoned the property, so they're gone. I have one just right now that we're working. She says, no, I'm not abandoned. I'm living in Ontario now, though. So
okay.
Compute. Anyway, vacated the property after the expiry or termination of tenancy. And then those goods can be. Now, I've had where the former tenant left, got moved out 3 days before, and left the final cleaning to the last day. Meanwhile, the landlord came and looked in the windows and everything's gone, and said, well, the places have been abandoned, and changed the locks. Well, the tenant wanted to come back and clean to get more of her security deposit back, and so now we've got a problem. She didn't actually abandon it. She just wasn't finished yet. Problem there is communication, and most problems we have is communication. So if they had communicated, they were at odds with each other, so I can understand why they weren't communicating. But that to me is very basic. You need to, if you're coming back, you should let the landlord know, I've moved everything out, but I'll be back on Friday to finish cleaning.
So Don, in that particular example you brought up, it sounds like that would probably be pretty common, especially if the relationship's a little bit tedious. Mm-hmm. What can we do as landlords to prevent that or mitigate that?
Well, you need to be observant and, of course, communicate. If you looking in the window and looks they're all gone, text the tenant and say, I'm looking in the window, I see everything's gone. Where are the keys? And so I can go in and start cleaning. And then of course, the tenant should say, I've got the keys still. I'm coming Friday to finish cleaning. And that should look after it.
Okay. Would you include a deadline in that conversation saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Tenant, if I don't hear from you in the next 4 days or whatever deadline you want to impose?
So there hasn't been any, and that's quite common. This one here I'm talking about, that she's in Ontario. She didn't communicate it was over 2 weeks, and they had called me. They weren't clients yet, or they're still not clients, but they called me and said, what do we do? And I said, well, under the RTA, you are allowed, if you feel that it's may be abandoned, you are allowed without notice to enter and see, because you have to mitigate your losses. If the water's running or whatever, you need to go in there and fix that kind of stuff if you think there's nobody home. Mm-hmm. I told her the procedure, knock on the door, yada, yada, yada. And it turned out that there was some moldy food and there was no clothes and there was a few pieces of broken furniture and a bunch of bags of something. They didn't open them.
Yeah.
And so they changed the locks and called it abandoned, put up I sent them a note or a poster that I got made up that they can put their number. The place has been abandoned, and they put that up. Well, and then texted, and she probably should have texted first, but she texted them, and then this lady's going berserkers. You're stealing my stuff and all this stuff. And it turns out there's nothing there anyway. They came today and cleaned. It took them 45 minutes. move what the stuff they wanted. They didn't clean anything. They just took the stuff that they wanted still. But anyway, so there's some clues. Sometimes it's subtle, that tell you that a place may be abandoned. Of course, the rent not being paid, that's one of the things. Maybe the mail there isn't as much mail there as there used to be, that sort of thing. Maybe the utilities have been disconnected. That's a big clue. And if you haven't seen or heard from them for quite some time, neighbors haven't seen them. There's no snow. There's no footprints in the snow or that kind of thing.
Right, for that time of year.
Yeah, and maybe in the summer the window's been open all the time, or they're all closed all the time. That sort of thing. As paper piling up in the front,
Right.
mail, that sort of thing. So then, you're pretty reasonably sure that they're probably not there, and you have to go in. You absolutely have to go in when you suspect that, because you don't know what's inside. That fridge may be full of mold, and it costs you, $1,000 for a new fridge, because that smell is extremely difficult to get out. Rotten food, we see that all the time. A dripping tap that's now starting to run. You got to cut those things because it's your cost.
So the onus, like once you come to that conclusion that, hey, I think that my property's been abandoned, you better get there in as soon as possible, because now you're mitigating damages and your ability to claim these damages. Because if you say on the 15th, I think the property's abandoned, but you didn't get there until the 20th, that's 5 days later. There's water damage from a dripping tap or down in the basement or whatever, or perhaps a frozen pipe because the thermostat was too low in the middle of the winter. All these damages might come back to you if you're not mitigating those risks by getting in a timely manner to inspect an assumed abandoned property, if I've explained that correctly.
Yeah, as Daffy Duck would say, exactly.
Okay, sounds good. Chris, I know you've been a police officer and taken evidence at scenes and part of your career. How would you approach this if you think you've got one of your units abandoned as well? Like, how would you? I guess what I'm asking, how would you document it?
Well, if you want to build a case for an abandonment, you take you take most of what Don has said into consideration as well, but check with the neighbors. Maybe that's why you provide, if you're a long distance landlord, maybe that's why you provide that bottle of whiskey or a bottle of wine or a batch of cookies to your neighbor, just to keep an eye out. And when you do knock on the door, it's a friendly, hey, have you seen what's been going on over here? Or they'll call you, say, hey, they're moving stuff out. It's the 20th. I've had that. People call me and tell me that, hey, do you know they're moving? I said, no idea. And so when you go there and stand there and ask them what's going on, the look on their face is amazing. So had I missed that, then I would have had to look at abandonment. So look through the windows. If you just see a non-lived-in place, that's why it's important for you to do your inspections. So if you've been doing your inspections every 6-8 months, whatever it is, they have a lived-in space. And now you're looking through a window because there's no curtains on it anymore. And there's a garbage bag laying in the middle of the floor. There's no couch. And that's pretty straightforward. They're not there anymore. And it's the 12th of the month and you haven't got your payment for the first. So that's why you have to add those things up. So you know what, if you think it's abandoned, go in. If you think you want to do the 24-hour notice because you're not too worried, then put in a 24-hour inspection notice. You come back, it's still posted there. That's more evidence for you. No one's taken it off, right? So,
okay. Well, let's segue. So I'll throw this at you, Don, first, and I'll read it out to you. So Mary Jean's asking, my tenant was ordered out by 6 p.m. on March 4th. That morning, she texted that she was out of town and I should change the locks. Okay, interesting. I went in the next day and found a huge garbage bag of rotten food, not even tied clothes in the middle of the kitchen. So not even tied clothes in the middle of the kitchen. Okay. So her tenant was ordered on March 4th.
Yeah, I think she's telling us what happened. And she found this bag of garbage. So if she hadn't gone in, and it could have been a
Could have been worse.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah, more of a comment than just a comment, but
Yeah, but those are the
damages.
the kind of things you're going to
Find.
You're going to look through the window and you're going to see that stuff. And look, don't be afraid to look in the window. It's your, you need to make sure your asset is in good shape. Let's go back to our other question. And before we run out of time here, Dawn can answer this perhaps. She said, not sure if this is on topic, but it kind of is because we're preparing for RTDRS stuff. It says, when you get a judgment, can you file a writ of enforcement if you don't have a date of birth and current address, as those fields are both on the form?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Yeah, of course you can. Some of that stuff they would have. You really don't need to do a writ of enforcement anymore. That's all included as part of the process now. That's been a while.
So, and just for us simpletons that haven't been through the ringer yet, knock on wood, what is a written enforcement? Just for clarity.
It used to be a step that you had to take in order to register the judgment that you got. So it's all registered now, and it'll show up at registries and all of that. Yeah.
So this is where we keep preaching is. Go on and put your information, your past due rent or your judgments on the Landlord Credit Bureau, now known as Front Lobby. We do tag them. You can find them on our page if you type in their name. But that's really important that you use that service that's out there. It's cheap and it's effective. And one day they're going to need something, whether it's another place to live, and somebody who's a member of our program uses it to find out if they're any good or not. So,
or an educated landlord for that matter.
Yeah, go ahead, Don. Yeah,
going forward, I would you should have a spot there for them to put their date of birth and their SIN number if they want to. But if you get that back and the date of birth isn't there, I wouldn't even consider past that. I would phone them if they looked interesting. I would phone them and say, you missed date of birth. What's your date of birth? And then of course that's going to show up when you run the check. But if they're not willing to put that information, then that's a red flag for me.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to flash this up. You know what? Here, I'll hold it back here so you can't read it. This is a driver's license. That needs to be on your file. You need to identify who is living in your place. When the police, you just don't know anymore. And if they don't want to identify themselves, well, I don't think I should give that to you. Well, thanks, been great. I'm moving on to the next client.
Good luck.
If you don't know who they are, how can you, not in your right mind, but like how can you give them a set of keys to a asset, a property? It's probably anything in Alberta right now, even a condo is at least worth 100,000. I guess small town that might be worth 70, 80,000. Still, it's like giving the keys to a truck. If you don't know who they are, and you don't have their driver's license, like how can you give them the keys to a vehicle? It's just like, it's crazy, right? So it's so important to have that information. So Chris, you've got a photocopy of a driver's license there. I know I use single key, and I've also used Neighborly. Part of their application process is you can get the tenant to submit and upload a photo of a government issued piece of ID. So super important.
It's important that you compare you got to be able to say these words. I compared a photo driver's license to the individual and found them to be one and the same.
Yeah.
Boom. That's something goes back into my previous career, but it also works in civil. How do you know this is the person that I said, because I took this photo, this driver's license, and I compared it to the person, and they were one and the same.
So Chris, I want to ask you on this, because I might be doing this. I do that, but I don't do it in real time. I interview the person, I have my viewing, I see them, they submit their application, and 2 or 3 days later, I get the picture in my application. I go, yep, that looks like who I just saw 2 days ago. That's how I do it. Or do you go in real time being like, I want to see your driver's license, and you look at them at the same time and then take a picture and carry on?
When they're signing my application, I go to the house, I do the walkthrough, and I tell them, bring your driver's license for identification. If they don't have it, If I have any doubts at all, I won't do anything unless I have it. And but we have to think technology is great, but old school works pretty darn good.
That's why I ask you these questions, because I need to validate, like, am I doing this the best way possible? So Don, I'm going to throw you the same question. How do you validate IDs these days?
Certainly, driver's license is always good. There's some people don't have a driver's license, but they have other things.
Passport or...
And certainly, and I take a photocopy of that. Now, just to throw a little twist in this, the Privacy Act says that you can't keep that. That you can look at it to verify, but you're not supposed to keep a copy of it. I do. I mean, if somebody's going to take me to court, I'll take whatever punishment I get.
Yeah, but, me too.
You're not. There's been people fined for having that information in their files.
So here's my thought on that: is as long as I still have a tenancy that's active, I can have the right to own that information because they're a client of mine. I need to maintain their identity, and then on top of that, if there's debts owed at some point into that past, that would also be my argument, saying up to the point where I'm made whole, I have the right or necessity to have that information on hand to fall through and debts owed.
I understand, and I'm the same way. What it says is that you can use it for verification purposes, but you have to have a stated, legitimate reason to keep that information. Maybe something would happen. In case something would happen, it doesn't fly. It's got to be for specific reasons that are legitimate, and
I've skimmed through it. So that they state you have to have a legitimate reason to maintain or hold on to the information past the identification process that we've just talked about. Okay, so when we say that we have to have the stated reason, Don, can we incorporate this into our leases, or what do you think that means? And then I know your evictions, and we're talking Privacy Act. It's like, I know we're not the experts in this area.
No, and I'm not either. But I've read this stuff, and I've read some of the cases and stuff that have happened elsewhere, and so I have an understanding of some of the stuff. But I guess it's what threshold do you want to do? If you want to do everything absolutely legal, you would shred that information after you verified it.
That doesn't mean you can't write down their birth date and their name and their full name and address. You can write that down.
Birth date is different, but the picture of their driver's license.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So the way around. So the argument is, can we keep a picture of a driver's license? So the answer is legally, no, we can't. So, however, you're going to look at that driver's license. Let me help you all with this so we're not confused. You're going to look at that driver's license. You're going to see that's Mary Jane Smith, born this day, and you're going to write that down on a piece of paper because it's part of your application. End of story. You put a little note to yourself, verified with driver's license. Here's your driver's license back. You don't have a picture anymore. So that's your way around it all. Just because I'm just because I may have a picture of something here doesn't. Yeah.
No. But the trick is that you have that on your application form and they fill it out.
Yeah.
So when they fill it out, they're giving you permission to keep it. So you keep that application form. And if your application form is very detailed, then you'll capture that information and use it later. Like next of kin, that's a great way to try and find people. They're writing down next of kin when you say, well, if you die, I have to know who to phone, whatever. And so you have that information. Well, I have that. I'll go. That's where I'll go to try and find where they went to.
Yeah. Well, we're getting past our hour here, and before we start losing viewers, we'll just grab a couple quick questions here.
Yeah, sure.
Mark, he says here, just for clarity, an RTS judgment is already registered. Yes, it is. It's registered with QB, but you still have to serve it upon them, Mark, and then you'll have to take that affidavit into QB. Mary says, lesson learned. I'm using single key going forward. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. You know, for $25 or whatever they're charging. What are they charging, Mac?
So yeah, retail is $24.99, $25. We've got a partnership set with them, so it gives us a 20% off to the community. So it knocks it $5 off. I know it's not crazy savings, but it does help. It's a Starbucks coffee at least, and knocks it down to $20, so $19.99.
Yeah. Do they work in the U.S. as well?
Yeah, actually, both single key Neighborly US and front lobby, which they also have credit checks now too. I do know at least the reporting is Canada and US wide.
Okay, well there you go, Teresa. That's why I asked, because your question, it's the same in California, that you can keep a copy of the driver's license unless they become a tenant. Unless they become a tenant, but not before it's a housing violation. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So again, Teresa, you can access through our program here with Alberta Landlord Community. You can get access to single key and get a discount. Actually, it's cheaper for you. It's probably cost you $3 because of your US dollar. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
And then Mary says again here, how long is single key accessible if they haven't? Is it still available down the road? Do you know, Matt?
Okay, so yes, how long is the single key report accessible? So I've learned this the hard way. I've got a current tenancy in place. They're on 4 years. They're actually one of my longest serving tenants. And Neighborly, this is Neighborly, not single key. Neighborly only kept the report for 30 days. I came in 2 months later to download the PDF for my files, gone. So I actually don't have some really critical information, which is I'm at a bit of a loss. I did ask this question point blank to Villa over at Single Key. This was about a year ago. And at that time, they did say they didn't have any time restrictions on those reports that are attached to your profile. However, in saying that, I'm just going to say right now, best practice is don't rely on a third party to maintain records for you. Go in there, download a PDF to your computer, stick it on a flash drive, somewhere secure, because obviously we have to keep it under lock and key as part of our obligation, but you maintain it yourself so you have access to that information when you need it, as I've already been personally burned by not downloading that information in a timely fashion and it was no longer available.
Mac, what I would suggest to you there is you just go meet with your clients, sit down with them. I just did this because I'm helping another landlord out that lives out of town, and they bought the place and there wasn't enough information from the previous landlord during the sale and handover. I just asked people, I just said, look, it's time to update your application. I need to verify your identity and a few other things. And yeah, if you just talk to them nice, you can get all that information, and just, it's a matter of updating your records. And if you take that approach, you shouldn't have a problem. So
good to know.
You gonna try it?
So actually what I did do was I got them on front lobby for credit reporting on the monthly habits.
There you go.
And so they were sent an email, and then I had to go and fill in the missing information, i.e. the date of birth and the SIN number and whatever else. I should go and verify that actually got put in place, because I know I think I am reporting on them, but they need to, since they're not they're in good standing, it has to be voluntary, so they need to commit to that. But if I don't have that information, I might just come back at what you just said, Chris. That's a great point. So you just go and say, so here's the point: is I'm not selling, is I'm the landlord. I've always been the landlord. Hey, 3 years later, hey, sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Tenant, I just need to get some more information because I wasn't super organized the first time around 3 years ago. Or do you say it a little bit differently than that?
No, why not be honest with them? Say, hey, I just need to update my records with you. Just need to. I don't have a your driver's license and identification information, and I want to update because I've changed how I'm doing things, and you are changing how you're doing things. Just go sit down and meet with them while you're doing your house inspection. Which you know what?
I like that.
Yeah,
I'm changing my process, and I want to update my information. No, that totally makes sense. I will do that.
Yeah.
Pro tip.
Get when you smile.
Yeah. And you know what, Mac, you're a sweetheart. They'll give you whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, most times.
Well, we are 15 minutes over, Mac. I think we should wind it up. This was a great show once again. Lots of information.
Yeah, super informative as always, and Lots of good tips. Don, we really appreciate coming out. If folks want to find you, I know that we throw your name everywhere on the site, but just how can people get a hold of you if they need to use your eviction services up in Edmonton?
They can go to my website, edmontonevictionservices.com. They can send me an email at don@edmontonevictionservices.com. Or they can phone me at 780-974-8427. And I answer that, except I'm in the shower.
Perfect. We'll hopefully keep it that way for everyone phoning Don. Fantastic, Don. Super informative. Fun night tonight, Chris, because we had a new person on the show, a new landlord, but a long time contributor, Ria. And it was pretty cool because I did not know she had 100 doors that she had underneath her belt, which all of a sudden makes a lot more sense from my perspective of been reading her questions, because sometimes they come in a bit of a flurry because she's living, or she's doing it in real time and asking those questions as they come along, because they certainly are challenging.
That's great. If you have any ideas for shows, folks, just put it out on the page. Hey, can you guys do a show on this? Tag Mac or I, or one of our three ladies that are part of our admin team, and we'll make a note of it and we'll push forward, because it may be tying into something we're already doing. So we are working, trying to get the RTDRS on the show, and we're chatting with them. So fingers crossed, that may work out for us as well. So.
Absolutely, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out for overtime. I'm going to slide this little tidbit in. I did give my letter resignation to my day job. I'm going to be committing full time to making this community a bit better, and I've got some pretty cool announcements coming down the road. So hang out, stay tight, and we'll talk about those things coming up soon.
All right.
We'll talk more about abandonment. There's a whole bunch more about abandoning goods and abandoned units and what you do with stuff and all that stuff. So
yeah, we didn't even get to the past that part. So absolutely awesome, Don. We'll really appreciate the knowledge. Thank you tonight.
You bet.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks a million.